There are a number of ways you can log time on tasks in teamwork projects, and I'm going to take you through all of these options now, and they're very easy to use. So here we are in the Tasks tab of our project, and one simple way to log time to your task is to just hover over that task and select the time icon here, where we have the option to either log time or we can start a timer. So for now I'm going to log time, and in the pop-up window here we can see the task that we're logging the time for. We can select who the time will be logged for, and if we want to select multiple people for this time, we can easily do that here. We can choose the date that we're logging the time for, we can select the start time and an end time, and we can specify the exact amount of time spent. So let's say that I just want to log 6 hours, and now you can see that our end time has adjusted to match the amount of time spent on the task. Over here we can select whether or not the time will be billable. Below this we can add a description for our time if we want to. And if we select the Tags tab, we can add any tags for the time. And we can also choose to complete this task from our log time on task pop-up window. So for now, I'm just going to say that the task is not complete, and I'm going to log the time here. As we saw earlier, we can also choose to start a timer on a task. So all we have to do is hover over our clock icon again, and then select Start Timer. And in the bottom left corner, you can see our timer ticking away now. So we can choose to pause this if we want to, and again, we can restart the timer. If we select the arrow icon here, we can add a description, we can decide whether or not this time is billable, and we can choose to show more options. So we can select a project and our task, or if we select the X icon here, we can choose not to assign this time to a particular task. So I'm just going to log this time now, and in the pop-up window here, I'll just select OK. So the time spent has been rounded up to 2 minutes here. We're going to mark this time as billable. We can add a description if we want to. We can choose to detach our task. And again, we can mark this task as complete. Now I'm just going to save our time log, and our time has been added and our task has now been completed. Another way to log time for a task in teamwork projects is to use the quick add menu. So to do that, we just need to go over here to the top right and select the add option here. And here you can see that we can choose to start a timer again, or we can log time. So I'll just log some time here. And in the pop-up window here, we need to select a project. So I'll go with the company newsletter A. We can add a description. We can add our time in hours and minutes. So let's say that I want to add 5 hours here. We can choose a specific start time if we want to. We can select a different date. And again, we can decide whether or not this time is billable. So again, I'll just log this time, and our time has been added. We can also log time for our tasks using the Time tab here. So again, we can select to log time here or start a timer. So I'll log some more time. And again, we can select who's logging the time. We can select our date, our start time, our end time, the time spent, and whether or not this time is billable. Again, we can also add a description here if we want to, and if we select the Task tab, we have the option to choose an existing task. So here we can choose to include completed tasks if we want to, and in the drop-down menu here, we can select our task. So I log some time for how support works here, and choose Select Task. Again, we can detach this task if we want to, and we can log our time. And now you can see that our time has been added here, and again, we can also choose to start a timer, and you can see our timer working away down here. We can also log time for tasks using the Everything section. So within this section, we just need to select the Time tab. And again, over on the right hand side, we can log time. So in the pop-up window here, we can select our project. So I'll go with the Enterprise Sales project. Again, we can add our date, start time, end time, the amount of time spent, and whether or not the time is billable. Down here, we can add a description of the time if we want to, and we can add our time here. If we want to log any more time here, we can easily do that. So we can select our project again. So let's say banner demolition. And let's say that I want to add 3 hours to this time. And then again, we can add it. And we can also assign this time directly to a task using the Choose Task option here. So we can just select our task from the drop-down menu. So I'll go with the follow-up call. Again, we can choose to include completed tasks in our drop-down menu. And we can just select our task here. Once we're happy with all of the time entries we've added, we can just select Log these entries. And now our time has been added. There are also several ways that you can log time for teamwork projects without actually needing to have teamwork projects open in your browser. One way that we can do this is by logging time via email. So here we are in our email client, and I can easily log time to a task by replying to an email about that task. All you need to do is enclose your time in square brackets. So if we want to add 1 hour, we can just do this. So inside our square brackets, we have 1H for 1 hour. We can also choose to add our time in minutes. So here you can see that I'm adding 25 minutes. So inside my square brackets, I've put in 25M. And we can also add our time in hours and minutes. So 1H space 25M is adding 1 hour and 25 minutes to this task. And then we can just send our email and our time has been added. We can also choose to log time in Teamwork Projects via the Teamwork Projects Chrome extension. So all we need to do is select our Chrome extension here, where again we can choose to start a timer or we can log time. So I'll just start a timer here. And if we want to stop our timer, again, we just need to go to our extension where we can see our timer running currently. So we just select our extension and select stop timer. And in the pop-up window here, we can choose to log our time or delete it. So in this case, I'll just delete the time and confirm the deletion. And now we can look at logging time via our Chrome extension. So I'll select log time here. And in the pop-up window here, we can select our project from the drop-down menu. We can choose a specific task. So we can select a task list. So I'll go with the social media promotion task list. And now we can select our task. So I'll go with the Twitter option here. We can choose to mark the selected task as complete. We can choose to use today's date, or we can select a custom date here. We can add a start time, and we can select how much time we want to add. We can choose whether or not the time is billable. We can add an optional description. We can choose to include a link to the current page if we want to. And again, we can just log our time, and now our time has been added. We can also choose to add time in Teamwork Projects via the Teamwork Timer desktop application. So in the Teamwork Timer app here, we can quickly start a timer by selecting the play option here. So we need to give our timer a name. We can select a task for our timer. So up in the top left, we need to select our project. So I'll go with Company Newsletter A. We can also select our task list. So I'll stick with the editing task list here. We can search for particular tasks. We can choose to include all tasks, active tasks, or completed tasks. And then down here, we can select our task. So we just need to choose our task and then select task. In the current time option, we can select how many hours we've already put into this before we start our timer. So let's say that I already have 2 hours of work done. We can select whether or not we want to start this timer now, and then we can add our timer. And once we're finished with our timer, we can just select log time, where we can see the project, we can see the task, we can choose to detach this task if we want to. We can see the time logged, we can decide whether or not this is billable, we can add a start time and we can customize our date, we can add a description, we can mark our task as complete, we can choose to reset our timer instead of removing it so that we can activate this timer again if we want to, and we can log this time. And there we have it. That's all the ways that you can log time to tasks in Teamwork Projects.